Hello, and welcome to the Gaia update for the Capricorn Full Moon that's happening on July 4th, 5th, 2020. I'm Adrienne Elise. Well, this is an official eclipse, but it's very far out. The eclipse happens when the sun and the moon line up with the nodes of the moon. So this is technically an eclipse, but really a wide eclipse. And so it's very important in a completion energy of our eclipse season. So let's talk it through. Capricorn. And during this eclipse, it's really powerful that this full moon happens right in the middle between the two exacts in this period of time of Jupiter and Pluto. So Jupiter and Pluto are together at 24 degrees until the beginning of July 1st. Then on July 6th, they come back together at 23 degrees. So this full moon in Capricorn, it's not close to Jupiter and Pluto, but right after the full moon, it will go right over Jupiter and Pluto, who's in between these conjunctions. Okay, so the first one happens at 24 degrees, and then the 23. So 2 and 4 is 6, a number of creation, and 2 and 3 is 5. And the 5 energy has a number of moving forward, putting that spoke on the wheel and moving forward in this process, even though Jupiter and Pluto are both retrograde for this conjunction. But Jupiter and Pluto together are about breaking down all that is false in our personality constructs, in our life, the structures of our life, and the collective, the structures of our world. And Jupiter brings expansion and opportunity to whatever it comes into. And so Pluto, the destroyer, the rebuilder, the bringer of mystery, the breaking down of all that's false, massive opportunities for breaking down old structures in our personal life and the world that are no longer serving us. Now, because there's such powerful energy around Chiron, because leading up to this full moon in Capricorn, we have a very potent energy of the Mercury retrograde in Cancer, and the sun in Cancer meeting up and in square to Chiron in Aries, exactly at 9 degrees, 9 being a number of completion. Chiron is our deep, deep wounds, and in this case, we're talking about wounds of the self, wounds around where you haven't been able to be who you really are in order to survive. So this is making the Pluto-Jupiter conjunction about breaking down the false constructs, personality constructs. What happens is that when you have a traumatic experience in a past life, which is pretty much kind of what the supernova souls have experienced often, part of you, or you got interrupted in your mission and your purpose, and supernova souls have such a big purpose and mission, and that energy of interruption causes you to kind of be stuck in this other timeline. And kind of what defines a timeline is a vibration, but in this case, a vibration would be constructs of belief systems and identities. Right? So every life we play a different role. We've been working on this big project of bringing the light, holding the light, and being leading the way of spiritual ascension in this earth evolution. That's always been the project, but each incarnation we have a different story that we're playing out. And so these unresolved stories are coming up for review, and it's a weird time because it's like, we're trying to go to a more optimal timeline, but in order to do that, we've got this like reverberating mess of chaos of all these old timelines that haven't been resolved. Because when you move into that new timeline energy, when you claim that joy, you hold that higher frequency vibration, you let yourself feel good, inevitably this stuff's going to crop up. And the astrology is speaking exactly to this. So for us supernova souls, this breakdown of Jupiter and Pluto and Capricorn is about those false constructs, very connected to the South Node. And we've just had a whole week of Mars, just as it was moving into Aries in square to the nodes of the moon. And the nodes of the moon very, activated, because this is this full moon is a partial eclipse. And that South Node in Sagittarius, this is the first set of eclipses with the South Node in Sagittarius. And it's bringing up, so these false personality constructs, very much connected and attached to old stories where you didn't complete your mission. And maybe now you feel like you don't know your mission. You got so far off your mission. Do you even have a mission or a purpose? But there's something missing in your life that you've been looking for. And so the Sagittarius South Node energy is saying, yeah, it's like where you feel like you've messed up and maybe you don't deserve to be on your path and purpose. But that's the only reason you're here. So then you're kind of in this weird place we've been talking about, where it's like we have to decide whether we are going to live and fully live, like really live in this life, or we're going to die and succumb to the programming, to the robot program, to the AI, agenda. We're just running out of those options. But this Sun, Mercury in Cancer square Chiron is saying now is time to birth into that bigger, more true self, that I am presence, that big God consciousness that you don't even know you are. But it's interesting because it kind of washes away this Cancer energy of rebirth, this nurturing wave of nurturing that we could receive through this, even though it's intention. It's like the true self, our true self, the part of us we've been turning down for so long, wants to get activated. And there's a huge vibrational energy of nurturing, a wave of nurturing, of rebirth, of going back into the womb and saying, okay, I disconnect with all those stories. I disconnect with all of those constructs. I disconnect with all those contracts and everything that's keeping me from this next step. It's coming. You've been feeling it. And it's this opportunity for this rebirth into this bigger part of you, of who you are. But then we have to face the pain of where we haven't been, where we've had to spend so long where we're not. And then maybe all your relationships and your whole life is based on that. And then who are you without it? And the isolation, the loneliness, the disconnection, all of that is coming up. But the wave of nurturing, compassion, of mother energy that's available to us to support this rebirth of our true self is so much stronger than the stories, right? So it's like, can we let this light wash into our lives and just be in that energy of this bigger self, right? It's almost like the clinging to these old stories is keeping us from receiving this bigger self, which is just like, I'm kind of seeing this picture of it washing all that away, like the tide just coming in and washing all away of these constructs. And then it's kind of like, how you have a problem and it seems like a really huge problem, but then the next couple of days or a week later, if somebody said, what was it that was really bothering you a week ago, you're like, oh, that resolved, it's fine. But at the time, it was like everything. This is kind of an energy of this time we're in, and timeline alignments. There's strange energies with time. And indeed, the 5D New Earth energies is requiring us to come into a completely different relationship to time. And part of that is like, oh, wait, things are moving dynamically. And that problem, that was such a problem, somehow resolved. And now I'm on to my new problem. Right? And let's just deal with the one problem that it's all about you living the lies and now coming to live your bigger spiritual truth and taking that leap, even though you feel completely alone, you don't know who you are, completely disoriented, you have no idea how to make decisions and move forward. That's kind of evidence that you're letting it happen. You're letting that timeline energy come into your life. And, but it's very, very strange time. And so expect these different relationships with time where it's like, but it's also showing you how the constructs don't hold on because it's so dynamic right now. It's like, let space for things to resolve, to bring in the energy, this dynamic mother energy that's trying to come into our world right now, and let that dissolve all those old stories. And be in this energy of this oneness, this nurturing, this compassion. So maybe that's part of the message is like, this Capricorn full moon, because Capricorn can be kind of a heavy energy. We've been having a lot of it for a long time. And now we're getting to the good parts of it. Now we're getting to like, oh, it feels so good to break out of that cage. It feels so good to let go of those energies that aren't serving. So clean house, be present, be in that light of the oneness, of the nurturing of the truth, of this bigger self, this I am. Bask in the light of that. There's opportunity for this right now. And this can help us with this rather serious energy of this Capricorn full moon. And maybe it's about getting serious with this true spiritual purpose that you came here to live and you got distracted from and disconnected from, but it's not even really a purpose, it's a true spiritual presence. And when you're in that presence, all that stories it's like the noise just goes down. It's just a little, it's like you're too busy being present with what is right now. So very powerful spiritual energies coming in and using that to wash away these old stories and to kind of have that Cancer energy of surrender into this rebirth, into this part of you that you don't really know who you are, and be in the unknown, be in the womb, be in that darkness, that emptiness, because it's coming to be filled with light. And that's the whole point of why you're here. And don't worry about the old stories, because a lot of those are distorted. And you weren't, because if you were here for a certain specific mission to accomplish some certain thing, then yes, maybe you did fail or something, right? But you thought that's what you were here for, but you were really just here to be a holder of the light, of the higher frequency vibration. You just living and breathing on the planet is helping. I know it's like really hard to sort all this through right now, but the more you can give yourself time in that beautiful womb of potential, of the future, and the I am, and this bigger self, it's like a beautiful, intimate meeting with you and who you really are, who you've been so disconnected from. But it's finally time to come home to this planet, come home to yourself, and we got to make room for that. And that's what this is all about right now. So when we can consciously take those moments to make room, we can more harmoniously adjust to these changes. So really, really powerful and potent time, and huge energies of gratitude coming through for you as a soul being here and going through all you've gone through to be here and be a part of this epic experience that we're going through right now together. So thank you so much, and I hope you can consider joining me for a activation for this Capricorn full moon, a live activation. This is going to be happening the day before the full moon, and because it's a holiday in the US, so I've got to make a little space for the celebration of independence. And isn't that interesting? We have a full moon in Capricorn, Capricorn representing those old structures of laws and beliefs and rules and control energy on the planet. And on the same day, we've got a full moon in Capricorn eclipse saying time to really be free. Time to really be free. And leading up to it, Mercury and the Sun and Cancer in square to that Chiron. Chiron and Aries, Aries wants freedom more than anything, and Chiron wants freedom to be who they really are. And it's like we're in this strange Stockholm syndrome, because it's like fight, fight, fight to get out of the trap of the lower matrix. And then what if you were just set free and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know who I am without all those. I don't know. I'm outside the fence now. Where's my identity? Where is this why we're so disoriented? Because we're being let out of the matrix. These higher timelines coming in. And so we're like, I don't know who I am without my prison walls. I don't know who I am without all these contracts. I don't know who I am without all this lower energy working against me. How do I even, so this is this disorientation. I feel like this is what's sorting through, and it's going to take a whole month of July to figure out what this Venus retrograde has really been about. But it seems like we have had to completely reorient and get disoriented, because the role we've been playing isn't who we really are. So of course our life, and that's the Capricorn, Jupiter, Pluto, break it down. We don't want to keep this old stuff, you know? It's like we don't want to keep this. It's like kind of making me think of the KonMari method, the magical art of tidying up. And she talks about like taking all of your books off of your shelf and just making a big pile and anything in your house, and then holding it to your heart and asking if it brings you joy. And maybe this is part of the process we're in here right now. It's like this cleaning house and kind of being like, well, I'm comfortable with this because it's what I've known, and this person, I have rapport with them, but I don't feel that good after being in this, spending time. I kind of feel like I don't feel great about myself. Like, I don't feel like this person is honoring me, right? So it's like just a complete reevaluation of everything in our life. And Venus, because Venus is like what you want, what you care about, and retrograde in Gemini, I have no idea. But maybe it's about what we don't want, which is those structures that have been keeping us hemmed in, keeping us quarantined, and it's time to explore life outside of the gate, outside of the quarantine, kind of the wider pasture of life, see what it's like out there. Should feel good, right? But at first it's a little scary. So I hope you can join me for that Capricorn Full Moon lunar eclipse activation. That's going to be on the 3rd of July and 10 a.m. Mountain Time. So I look forward to seeing you then, and or on the next update. Hang in there, potent and powerful times. Make the most of it. Be present, and we're in this together. So look forward to seeing you soon. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.